Imagine you're playing a high-stakes game. Everyone wants to win, but not everyone shows their true cards. Some players smile, offer help, and seem like your best friend, right up until the moment they make their winning move. That's the essence of what Niccolò Machiavelli called the Mask of Amity. It's not about genuine friendship for its own sake. It's about using the appearance of friendship as a powerful tool to achieve your goals, especially when operating in tricky or dangerous situations. Machiavelli, the famous political thinker from Renaissance Italy, wasn't writing a guide to being a good person in his book, The Prince. He was giving brutally practical advice to rulers on how to gain power and, more importantly, how to keep it in a world full of rivals and threats. One of his most enduring ideas is that appearances matter just as much, sometimes more, than reality. And looking friendly, trustworthy, and agreeable, even when you aren't feeling particularly friendly, is a strategy as old as time, dressed up in Machiavellian terms. Think about it like putting on a mask for a play. The mask isn't you, but it serves a purpose for the performance. The Mask of Amity is the friendly face you show the world when it's strategically useful. Why? Because people naturally trust, like, and cooperate more easily with those who seem warm and agreeable. It lowers their guard. It makes them less suspicious. It opens doors that might otherwise be slammed shut. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He saw that a prince who was openly ruthless, deceitful, or cruel all the time would quickly make enemies and find himself isolated or overthrown. But a prince who could appear virtuous, generous, and loyal, while being ready to act decisively and even ruthlessly when necessary, stood a much better chance of survival and success. The key was knowing when to wear the mask and when to take it off. It wasn't about being nice. It was about being effective. Consider a real-life example many can relate to: the workplace. Imagine Sarah and Ben are both up for the same big promotion. Sarah genuinely likes Ben, but she really wants that promotion. Openly competing or bad-mouthing Ben might make her look aggressive or untrustworthy to the boss. So, Sarah puts on the Mask of Amity. She's always pleasant to Ben, offers to help him with his projects. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? And chats amiably at the coffee machine. She might even subtly agree with his critiques of management, building rapport. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Sarah is working twice as hard, strategically highlighting her own achievements to the boss, and maybe even discreetly pointing out minor mistakes Ben has made, framed as helpful feedback, of course. When the promotion is announced, Sarah gets it. Ben is shocked. But we were friends. She was always so nice. Sarah wasn't being malicious for the sake of it. She was using the appearance of friendship to navigate the competition more effectively, reducing Ben as a threat while advancing herself. She wore the mask until she no longer needed to. Even after the promotion, she might keep it on for a while, praising Ben's contributions publicly to seem fair and maintain team morale, ensuring a smoother transition into her new role and securing his cooperation, or at least minimizing resentment. On a much larger scale, think about international diplomacy. Countries constantly engage in smiling summits and warm handshakes between leaders who deeply distrust each other. They sign treaties called pacts of friendship or partnerships for peace, while their spies are busy gathering intelligence and their militaries prepare for potential conflict. Why? Because the Mask of Amity keeps channels open, allows for negotiation, prevents immediate escalation, and buys time. A nation might be imposing harsh economic sanctions on another in secret, but its ambassador will still attend the other country's National Day reception, smiling and toasting to mutual understanding. It's not hypocrisy in the simple sense. It's statecraft. Machiavelli would nod in approval. Open hostility invites immediate retaliation. Feigned friendship allows you to maneuver, gather strength, or achieve concessions without triggering a fight you might not be ready for. Think of the tense Cold War meetings between US and Soviet leaders, all smiles for the cameras while the nuclear arsenals remained on high alert. Or consider modern trade negotiations, where countries accusing each other of unfair practices one day sit down the next with broad smiles to discuss mutually beneficial agreements, each side using the pleasant atmosphere to push their own agenda while avoiding a damaging trade war neither truly wants at that moment. Even in everyday social circles, the Mask of Amity appears. That person in your wider circle, maybe a neighbor, a fellow parent at school, or an acquaintance from a club. They're always incredibly pleasant. They remember your birthday with a card. They ask about your sick relative with apparent concern. They're quick with a compliment or offer small favors, lending a tool, giving you a lift when your car's in the shop. They seem genuinely nice, and perhaps they are, but sometimes this behavior is a deliberate investment, a slow accumulation of social capital using the Mask of Amity. They are building a network of people who feel warmly towards them, who feel indebted, or who simply find them agreeable and trustworthy. This reservoir of goodwill isn't built purely for altruism. It's a resource to be tapped. When they need something significant, perhaps a large loan because of a sudden crisis, a crucial introduction to someone influential in your network, unwavering support in a neighborhood dispute, or votes for a committee position. Their history of consistent friendliness makes refusal feel awkward, even rude. They've always been so kind to me. You think, how can I say no? The mask lowers resistance and creates a sense of obligation. It's not always sinister. The need might be genuine. But the method is Machiavellian, leveraging the appearance of selfless friendship to secure tangible assistance or advantage when required. It turns social interaction into a strategic asset. If overused or insincere, however, this reservoir can dry up. People eventually sense the calculation and withdraw their goodwill, leaving the mask wearer socially bankrupt. Machiavelli's crucial point, often missed, is that this mask isn't a license for constant betrayal or pointless cruelty. That's counterproductive and breeds chaos. The effectiveness of the Mask of Amity depends on its careful, strategic use. If you wear it constantly, but your actions constantly betray it, you're always caught lying. You consistently stab people in the back for minor gains. The mask becomes useless. People see through the act. You gain a reputation as utterly untrustworthy, a snake. No one will believe your friendly words or gestures ever again. Your power evaporates because cooperation becomes impossible. Everyone guards against you. Machiavelli stressed that while a ruler must know how to deceive, he must also be a masterful actor. The mask must be convincing, seamless. More importantly, breaking faith, removing the mask to act against someone, must be reserved for moments of absolute necessity, when your core survival, your fundamental power, or a massive strategic objective is truly at stake. And even then, he advised being prepared to justify the action convincingly afterwards, perhaps blaming circumstances or the victim's own actions. The mask's primary purpose is to avoid constant conflict, to create breathing room and opportunities for gain, not to invite endless suspicion and retaliation through petty betrayals. It's about calculated, infrequent ruthlessness cloaked in sustained, believable amity. Think of a manager who is generally supportive and approachable, the mask, fostering team loyalty, but who swiftly and decisively fires an employee caught stealing or seriously undermining the team. The mask comes off only when the threat is real and significant. The flip side of wearing the mask is recognizing it on others. Machiavelli had a profoundly skeptical view of human nature. He assumed people are generally self-interested and will prioritize their own advantage, even if it means betraying trust, if the stakes are high enough and the opportunity arises. Therefore, wisdom lies in not accepting every friendly smile or kind word at face value. The truly savvy person practices a kind of polite skepticism. They enjoy the pleasantries. They might even mirror the friendly behavior to maintain smooth interactions, wearing their own subtle mask. But they don't lower their guard completely based on charm alone. They pay far more attention to actions than words. Is the person who suddenly becomes very helpful also probing for sensitive information? Is their praise excessive or seemingly designed to make you feel overconfident or complacent? Are they asking seemingly innocent questions that, put together, reveal a lot about your plans, weaknesses, or resources? Are they building closeness unusually fast? Being aware that the Mask of Amity is a common strategy allows you to navigate relationships more cautiously. You appreciate the surface-level friendliness, but protect your core interests and information. Think of an experienced business negotiator. They enjoy the lavish dinner, the warm conversation, the jokes, and the apparent camaraderie offered by the other side, while projecting their own version of it. But when it comes time to sign the contract, they scrutinize every clause, involve their lawyers, and double-check every promise. They understand the amity displayed as part of the negotiation dance, a tool to build rapport and perhaps encourage concessions, not a guarantee of altruism. Or consider a new acquaintance who showers you with compliments and invites you out constantly. A wary observer might wonder what connection or favor they are ultimately seeking before getting too deeply involved. Consider the quiet tension within families during inheritance discussions. Aunt Margaret, usually reserved, becomes unusually attentive and helpful to her aging, wealthy father. She visits more often, brings his favorite meals, suddenly mastering his beloved apple pie, reminisces fondly, and subtly criticizes her siblings' busyness. John is so caught up with work he barely calls. Poor Dad must feel so lonely. She wears the Mask of Amity diligently, projecting devoted care. Her true aim? To position herself as the most trustworthy and loving child, hoping to influence the will or gain a larger share. She's not necessarily evil. She might genuinely believe she deserves more for her effort. But the method is pure Machiavelli, using consistent, visible displays of affection and loyalty to build a compelling narrative of worthiness, overshadowing others, and securing advantage when the crucial moment of division arrives. The mask smooths the path to her desired outcome, reducing potential conflict with siblings who might otherwise contest her influence or accuse her of manipulation. Its ambition wrapped in a warm, familial blanket. Look at the world of sales and customer service. The successful salesperson isn't usually the pushy one. They are the friendly advisor. They listen intently to your needs, nod understandingly, agree with your concerns. You're absolutely right. Price is a major factor these days. It's tough for everyone. Share relatable stories about other clients just like you and project genuine empathy. They build rapport, making you feel understood, valued, and safe, like a friend looking out for your best interest. This is the Mask of Amity deployed professionally. While their core goal is to close the deal, often on terms favorable to them or their company, they use apparent agreement, warmth, and shared understanding to lower your resistance, bypass skepticism, and make their ultimate proposal seem like the natural, obvious, and mutually beneficial solution rather than a hard sell. They disarm your caution with a smile and a nod, leveraging the appearance of alignment and goodwill to guide you towards their desired action. It's about making the transaction smoother and more likely by strategically projecting helpfulness and agreement. The helpful customer service agent calming an irate caller with soothing tones and apparent deep concern, "I completely understand how frustrating that must be, Mr. Smith," is also wearing the mask, aiming to de-escalate and resolve the issue efficiently, while protecting the company's image. Even acts of charity or public goodwill can sometimes be worn like the Mask of Amity. A large corporation facing intense bad press and consumer backlash over an environmental disaster or unethical labor practices might suddenly launch a high-profile, expensive community cleanup initiative or scholarship fund. The CEO gives heartfelt, tear-jerking speeches about corporate responsibility, caring for the planet, and investing in the future. Is there genuine concern? Possibly, at some level. But the timing and the scale of the display strongly suggest a strategic application of the Mask of Amity. The primary goal is to rebuild a friendly public image, deflect criticism, regain consumer trust and loyalty, and avoid stricter government regulations, boycotts, or plummeting stock prices. The amiable actions serve as reputational armor against the damage caused by the underlying problem. Similarly, a politician caught in a major scandal might suddenly be photographed extensively volunteering at a soup kitchen, reading to children at a library, or helping build a house with Habitat for Humanity. They project an image of approachable, caring, down-to-earth humanity, directly counter to the negative allegations. They use these highly visible demonstrations of warmth, community spirit, and benevolence to soften public perception, hoping the mask of goodwill will obscure the underlying issues long enough for the immediate media storm to pass, for their spin doctors to craft a narrative, or for voters to simply forget. The appearance of selfless benevolence becomes a shield against accountability. The mask also functions powerfully as a subtle tool for gathering intelligence and influence. Think of the effortlessly charming conversationalist at a party or networking event. They gravitate towards you, offer a warm smile and genuine seeming interest. They ask seemingly innocent, even flattering questions. That's a fascinating project you're working on. How on earth do you manage the international supply chain challenges with the current disruptions? Or, you seem incredibly knowledgeable about the market trends after all these years. What's your real take on Company X's next big move? I value your insight. Wrapped in friendly curiosity, admiration, and rapport, these questions are careful probes. The wearer of the mask uses the comfortable atmosphere of pleasant amity they've created to encourage you to divulge information, opinions, industry secrets, personal assessments, or even vulnerabilities you might otherwise guard closely in a more formal or adversarial setting. The friendly facade makes the target feel safe, valued, and understood, significantly lowering their instinctive caution and resistance to sharing. This isn't just for spies. It happens constantly in competitive business networking, market research, academic rivalry, or even social climbing. The person offering warm smiles, attentive listening, and shared laughter might be meticulously collecting useful data points, contacts, or leverage under the guise of friendly, enjoyable conversation, building a mental or actual dossier to be used later for personal advantage, strategic connection, or competitive positioning. The mask makes the inquiry seem harmless, even flattering and enjoyable. Crucially, Machiavelli warned that the Mask of Amity loses all power and can even become dangerous if the wearer is perceived as fundamentally weak or incapable. Friendliness must be underpinned by a clear sense of capability and the potential for decisive, even forceful action. A leader who is only ever amiable, who never demonstrates strength, conviction, or the willingness to act firmly when crossed or when necessary, becomes seen as harmless but ultimately irrelevant, easy to manipulate, ignore, or bypass. The mask works best, paradoxically, when others sense that beneath the agreeable, approachable surface lies competence, resolve, and the capacity for formidable action if truly challenged, or if cooperation fails. They respect the friendliness precisely because they suspect or know it could be replaced by something much less pleasant if the situation demands it. It's the combination that disarms and deters, The approachable demeanor suggesting cooperation is possible and preferable, coupled with the unspoken understanding that failure to reciprocate the civility, attempts at exploitation, or direct threats will meet a swift, effective, and potentially harsh response. The mask is not a sign of submission or weakness. It's a choice made consciously from a position of calculated strength. The amity is offered, but it's an offer backed by the quiet confidence of power held in reserve. This maintains the necessary tension, the underlying caution that keeps the mask credible and prevents others from taking the displayed kindness for granted or mistaking it for pliability. The friendly prince must still be unmistakably a prince, capable of transforming into the lion when the strategic moment arrives. The mask is a valuable tactic, not the totality of his being or power. Its effectiveness hinges entirely on the reality of capability and resolve behind it. Without that substance, the mask becomes merely a plea for acceptance or a sign of vulnerability, easily seen through, disregarded, or exploited. Think of the manager who is always nice but never makes a tough decision, backs down from every conflict, and lets poor performance slide. Their team quickly loses respect. Their amity becomes synonymous with weakness and ineffectiveness. Machiavelli understood that real power was the indispensable foundation. The mask was simply the most effective, least costly, and least provocative way to wield that power much of the time, preserving resources, energy, and options. It allowed power to conserve its strength, deploying overt force only when the mask alone could no longer secure the necessary outcome or when a decisive demonstration was required. It was the velvet glove over the iron fist, making the fist less frequently needed, but all the more shocking and potent when it finally emerged. The performance of friendship made the reality of power smoother to exercise, more palatable to others, and far less likely to provoke immediate, unified opposition at every turn. It made ruling, in Machiavelli's harsh but pragmatic view, a less exhausting, less perilous, and more sustainable endeavor over the long, treacherous haul. The mask, worn well and backed by substance, was ultimately an act of supreme strategic pragmatism in a world where constant, open confrontation was a fast track to exhaustion and ruin. Ultimately, Machiavelli's Mask of Amity isn't an endorsement of dishonesty as a moral virtue. It's a stark, practical observation about the often unspoken mechanics of influence, survival, and success in complex environments where trust is fragile, intentions are frequently hidden, and competition for power, resources, position, security, or advantage is relentless. It recognizes that projecting a consistent, credible image of friendliness, goodwill, cooperation, and trustworthiness is frequently the safest posture and the most effective key. It disarms potential opponents, facilitates the building of temporary but useful alliances that serve your immediate purpose, opens doors that open hostility slams shut, and creates crucial space to observe, plan, gather information, and act decisively when the moment is right. It allows you to embody the fox, cunning, adaptable, strategic, while preserving the vital option to become the lion, forceful, direct, intimidating, when circumstances demand the mask come off. The immense danger lies in misusing it, betraying trust too frequently or for trivial reasons, gaining a widespread reputation for unreliability and deceit that destroys future cooperation, or becoming so reliant on deception that you neglect to build any genuine alliances, which can offer deeper, more enduring strength based on shared interest or respect. But for Machiavelli, navigating the treacherous, shifting sands of power dynamics, the core principle stood firm. Appearing friendly, approachable, reasonable, and trustworthy is frequently a far more potent shield against resistance and a more useful key to unlocking opportunity than appearing openly threatening, suspicious, or difficult. Even if that friendly face is, in truth, nothing more than a meticulously crafted, strategically worn mask. It is the armor of the agreeable personal or political ambition carefully cloaked in a disarming smile and pleasant demeanor. It is the performance that smooths the path to objectives, making the journey less perilous and the destination more attainable in a world where naked ambition often provokes instant resistance and barriers, while apparent amity disarms suspicion and opens gates. Understanding this dynamic, how to use this mask sparingly, effectively, and credibly when necessary, and crucially, how to detect its use by others, is fundamental to deciphering the unspoken rules that shape human interactions and power struggles, from the quiet rivalries simmering in the office kitchen to the grand, high-stakes stages of international diplomacy. It's not about adopting universal distrust, but about developing a clear-eyed awareness that the warm smile directed your way might be a genuine gesture of kindness, or it might be the most practical, self-protective piece of social or political armor someone has consciously chosen to wear in that specific moment. The wise and effective observer learns to discern the difference not through blanket cynicism, but through careful attention to actions over time, context, and a grounded understanding of core human motivations and the strategic imperatives that drive behavior in competitive arenas. The Mask of Amity endures as a concept because, despite its inherent element of deception, it demonstrably works, making the complex, often harsh game of navigating human ambitions and securing objectives run just a little more smoothly, efficiently, and successfully for the one who understands its power and knows precisely how and when to wear it well. Seek wisdom.